So now we are back on a mission. So Thorsten will take us on the mission to elevate your cloud native CAP applications to peak performance, which means if you deployed your apps following the BTP Developer guide that Ole featured this morning, but now it's time to optimize, and you don't know how are your apps performing. So this is why we will continue with a little bit of the observability topic and operational patterns to, yeah, and Thorsten is the expert for that from the SAP BTP team. So
thank you. Thank you. Thank you everyone for being attendant and looking into the topic of how to observe your cloud CAP applications. My name is Thorsten Sandfuchs. I'm the area product owner of the BTP Observability team, and I'm working closely. My unit is providing the cloud logging service, which we just recently heard. I'm working closely as well with the cloud ALM team. And this presentation will give you a bit of the overview and a wrap up of what we heard in the previous sessions, perhaps, and connecting the dots. So let's jump into the topic. You heard a couple of definitions of observability and what observability is. I mean, fundamentally, I want to motivate it a bit differently because everything that we deploy to the cloud is a bit like a black box. We don't know exactly what it's doing. We don't know exactly how it is behaving. And observing it and actually measuring it helps us to understand how the system is really behaving under load. And that's the essence of it. And I want to show you a bit how SAP helps you to monitor CAP applications in combination with all our tools that we do have in the portfolio.
Hello. Unfortunately, during our live presentation, the audio was not recorded. So I'm now giving you the content of this slide after the presentation, and we will continue with the presentation in a moment. So SAP distinguished mainly between two use cases. For one, problem detection and problem resolution. While tools like SAP Cloud ALM provide central observability capabilities which unify the monitoring of different underlying services, it helps you quickly to identify where to deep dive. And it helps you to detect problems. There is implemented cross-sensitive navigation, we will see that in a demo as well in a second, to the local problem resolution tools. So whenever then experts need to deep dive, and for example, one of the tools we saw as well in the presentation of Stefan Henke in the earlier session was cloud logging, SAP Cloud Logging. It helps then an expert user to actually nail down the problem and find a root cause analysis, be it, for example, in the application logs or the request logs, or even in the open telemetry data that is able to be ingested into the cloud logging service. So all of that is based on the same telemetry data, and with cross navigation, we give you best of both worlds, so to speak, and enable you to quickly find out what is going on. And resolve the situation, hopefully in a quick manner. As well, observability for CAP follows the mentioned Kalesi concept that Daniel mentioned in the keynote, which are basically twofold. The one, we really centered around low effort and quick onboarding. So we give you some predefined monitoring standards. We will touch on these use cases, and they provide already a best of breed capability, which hopefully helps you as well without a lot of customization. As well, there is minimal code changes required. We will see in a second what kind of dependencies you need to do, but for example, you in most of the cases don't need to change your code. And now I'm switching back to the right-hand side of this slide, which was recorded in the presentation. I hope you find this useful for you as well.
To say, but we as well provide a lot of built-in flexibility. So you can hook on the APIs, you can basically automate on top, and that's exactly what we want you as well to explore and provide feedback to us, because every team is different, every application, every customer is different, every application can be a multitude of like hundreds of microservices or only very small set of services, and thus we need flexibility and customization options. And I will show you a couple of them as well in the demo that I'm going to run. But now let's unveil the black box. Sorry for this. Yeah, it didn't work. Yeah, I don't know. I tried that. Anyway, let's try to stick with that. Now, the black box, unveiling it, and it's the famous, really famous incident management application. I don't know whether you heard it. It's a super duper, nicely developed application, very productive, and you can report incidents with it, but it's interconnected with a lot of services, right? So it plays a very good role in our game here of showing what we want to demonstrate for you. And in order to just give you one more slide, and then I'm going to go to the demo, we have user interactions and health checks. And what observability normally means as well is that you need different measurement points and different, so to say, attachments of things that you then want to explore to. And that's an overview of some of the use cases that we have enabled, and some of them I will show. So for example, if you want to show and understand like what Henkel was showing us, what the real user monitoring is doing, you need a real user monitoring entity. If you want to rather have executed a synthetic check and you want to validate that the system is behaving as soon as your employees come up in the morning, and you want to validate it through the night or every 5 minutes, you need a synthetic monitor who actually executes a certain business scenario automatically and validates that the system is up and running all of the time, and so on and so forth. So we are touching as well from the left-hand side to the right-hand side, more from problem detection to problem resolution bits. And as said, this is something I'm going to demo to you as well. So let me switch gears a bit, and let me first start perhaps with as well a code. So we saw the schema already in the morning. The schema is not changed, right? I mean, we don't need to introduce now new database tables or whatsoever. But what we need to do is what we saw in the morning. We need a couple of dependencies. Here in particular, I want to call out that we are working with the latest CAP.js telemetry package up here, as well as with the OLTP exporters for metrics, logs, and traces. So that's something that we recently, we heard it as well in the big keynote session in the morning, we're releasing, as well as we have the telemetry to cloud logging set up. And in the background, we have as well set up a system to connect to cloud ALM. I'm not going to show that here. Henkel was showing that in the morning. And one of the use cases, perhaps just to as well look at that before we go into now really the demo part, is the metric bit. We will see that in the demo, so I wanted to give you that part. We saw it in Java just now. It's the same, basically the same in Node.js. We instantiate a constant. We get this from the OpenTelemetry. We take it. We name our meter, and then in the business logic, we can increment the meter depending on certain cases. Right? It's a very simple example, and it should count the high incident numbers that I see. Now, coming to the actual application, and the actual application is the normal application that we demoed as well in the morning. So you see a couple of incidents. I can create a new incident, my reCAP demo, and I place it on high, and then I'm creating it. Juggle. And that's good. So in the background, the measurement points were activated. So the data is being collected, and I can easily now switch over to the different solutions. I will show a bit more than Henkel showed in the morning. And let me just do a couple of clicks now in this real user monitoring experience. So what does it now really mean? And we have a combination of synthetic users and a combination of real users executing here, and we see all the requests to the backend. So let's just pick one of the requests to the backend. It's a batch request. So CAP is very efficient in navigating to the database, and it's posting a batch of requests in a single HTTP request to the backend. You see that basically, and this is live data, all the requests from the synthetic monitors are being executed as well in the back end. And you see certain measurement points, right? Response time, network time. It's quite relevant whether the system itself was computing or the network did take some time in order to process the data. And you see that here at your fingertips. As well, if you then go more into deep, so this was something that was probably, let me just check, executed. No. Because it's live data, it's sometimes the data is a bit vanishing, so I have to perhaps put on a bigger screen here or bigger time frame. So I can navigate here in the last couple of hours. Yeah, here is a good request. It's a bit more a complicated one. And thanks Teams for that. What we see here is in Cloud ALM, the depiction of a interaction that we just saw as well in OpenTelemetry traces or similar, which is putting together the end user step, which is in this part a safe press. I don't know whether you can read it already. It calls the backend, and then a couple of database statements are being executed. On all of the layers, I see respective details, transaction IDs, root context IDs, timing information, memory information, which might be relevant for you to really debug whether this application was causing, and the compute is causing a certain slow running or as well efficient application, or whether the database, how much to the actual runtime or execution, either the system or the database is contributing to. We have here different context-sensitive navigations. We have a cross-navigation to the cloud logging service. I will show that a bit later. And we have a backward navigation to the execution flow. So here I'm seeing now all the user interactions. I'm making it a bit bigger, perhaps. All the user interactions of the users as he was browsing the page, and only one of them led to the request to the backend, right? And this is exactly what real user monitoring means. I can not only see what are the calls to the backend, but I can check when did he press that button and was it successful, and did he perhaps enter into an error state. Speaking of error states, there is the second part, which is called integration exception monitoring. It was one of the other use cases. And here we are focusing really on errors. So as said, we are here on the Node.js side. You see a depiction of all errors, and I mean, don't blame me, but this is an example. So hopefully in your system this looks a bit more simpler and less error prone. But yeah, this is what we have today, and we have to work with it. Okay. What I can do again, I can dig deeper, look into correlation tracks and whatsoever, but eventually it might be that I'm in the position that this central monitoring doesn't provide enough context. I want to see what are the logs that are basically floating around that might lead to that error, right? And this is where we have another context-sensitive navigation directly going into our cloud logging solution. Where we see the logs and we see the error logs, but we see as well all info logs and all the other logs that are related to this error log. And that's a value that was previously not possible. And that's exactly what, and there was a question before, how do the tools interplay, right? Here there is added value put into the mix. And again, I can now get out of that detail level and not concentrate on that trace, on that single trace. I can basically zoom out. I can get much more logs, and I can navigate based on timing and other means what is being what might be happening here. We saw a bit the metrics already. And as well on Node.js, we developed one metric. I mean, I didn't code it now physically, right? But I wanted to still show you one of the metrics and the incident urgency high metric in the demo. And again, this is something that Stefan showed already quite nicely, and it works the same way with Node.js, right? So really, we are abstracting here from the technology. We are elevating it, you know, no matter whether you're putting this on Java or Node.js, you can use the same tooling. This is called runtime independency in order to get your custom metrics into that. And usually these custom metrics are things that are really specific to your service. So SAP cannot pre-build it, right? And the standard to be used in order to introduce it into your applications is really OpenTelemetry. Good. Wrapping up so that we have a couple of time and a minute time for questions as well. Just switching a bit back to the to our slides. Links provided, and perhaps the ones that are really relevant for what I showed today. There is an SAP Cloud ALM expert portal available where you see a description of all the use cases that I was showing to you, as well as how to enable them. SAP Cloud Logging as a centerpiece here, the help portal link, so help.sap.corp, SAP Cloud Logging, and the already featured Cloud Implement Observability in a full stack CAP application. Is something where at the moment Cloud Logging is featured, but we are currently working in extending that as well to give you hands-on material for Cloud ALM in addition. Thanks a lot. There is a Meet the Expert session. Stefan already as well featured that, but opening up for questions, anything. Thank you. There is one.
Rico.
My question is about multi-tenancy apps built by partners.
Yes.
There's unfortunately still a gap, or is there any positive news?
So far, I don't know the latest, but definitely we are working on that because that's an obvious thing that needs support. I mean, it's I think it's twofold, right? So partners can already use Cloud Logging, and there it's working fine, right? So for your problem resolution bit, that you shouldn't worry about. But for the central monitoring, there needs a bit of conceptual work, but we are on it.
To get everyone on board, because there is in the moment SAP SAP solutions can monitor into Cloud ALM of the customer subscribing. You can build your own single tenant apps, putting data into Cloud ALM, but partners who provide SaaS applications can't get their logging into the customer's Cloud ALM.
So it's more a partner creation.
There's another question in the room.
Thank you for the great insights, especially about ALM. It's not always that kind of easy to understand ALM capabilities. Seeing many of them on the screenshot from you on the live demo, I'm wondering about the overhead about the CAP.js applications we are hosting. How and where come all the data from? Is this running with requests in the background, HTTP requests? Is it collected via the container by the BTP? How is that working?
Yeah, it's twofold. I mean, at the moment, as these are libraries, we have a classical agent approach, like all observability providers in the industry is doing that, and that gives a bit of a penalty on CPU memory and as well networking, because we are piggybacking the requests that go to the back end as well with this kind of observability data, right? And we need to record it. But what we usually as well make sure is that this is not too much affecting. So we are limiting that data. As well, the OpenTelemetry ecosystem works on throttling and as well as tries always to secure the business workload. So because what observability data and systems shouldn't do, they shouldn't pull down the business CPU, so to speak. And that's a constant thing that has been closely worked on and will be further enhanced as well as the community grows. So I'm pretty certain that this it's not going to be an issue eventually. And if you have a case, right, please bring that forward, because eventually when we fix it centrally, that can help all the customers. So we are definitely into that topic. Yeah. And it's a classical topic, but there are as well many nifty, grifty options to work around that. Good question. Thank you.
I would say we take this last question, and then you can really go dig into Thorsten and Stefan at the expert corner,
yeah,
if you want.
10 minutes, so.
If you want to get deeper on the observability topic.
Maybe this is once again going into the next topic for the next one, as before. No, how did you build that integration from Cloud LM into cloud logging?
Okay.
I mean, you showed a link going in. Was that something you had to out of the box?
So that's
somehow
part of a bit
configure?
auto magic that we are providing to you. So it's not enabled on all systems. It's only available on the systems where you bound a cloud logging instance. So Cloud ALM really detects as part of the deployment whether cloud logging is available, and only then renders really that context-sensitive navigation. And that's a concept that the Cloud ALM team basically introduced to provide that flexibility and to cater for that use case. Yes, we have central observability, but we always as well need to integrate towards the more deeper ones. And there are other products that are similarly integrated, like the CPI monitoring solutions and other SaaS local monitoring tools. So cloud logging is the one that is most relevant for CAP workload. And if you really, do root cause analysis for yourself, but even for others, similar navigation pattern is available. But yeah. Very valid question, and it's magic.
Thank you, Thorsten, for this amazing session. And then go hit him up in the expert corner if you have more questions.
I'm here the whole day. Thank you.